All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nancy Yap, and I am the Executive Director of the Center for Asian Americans United for Self-Empowerment, also known as CAUSE. Before we begin, I'd like to ask everyone in the panelist room to keep your microphones muted during the program unless you're prompted to speak by our team. Also, for everyone watching, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to use the Zoom chat or the Q&A feature. We'll do our best to address your questions. And then also, just so you know, we will be recording today's event. Now, a little bit about CAUSE for anyone who might not know. With a mission to advance the political and civic empowerment of the Asian Pacific American community, CAUSE has programs that develop a pipeline of civic leadership. This includes the CAUSE Leadership Academy for college students, CAUSE Leadership Institute for professionals, and the CAUSE Leadership Network. CAUSE also focuses on voter outreach and education, which brings me to today's event. Today, the California Secretary of State, Alex Padilla, will share information about the upcoming election on November 3rd, mail-in voting, and in-person voting safety. After a Q&A with him, we will also have nonprofit organizations share their resources. Thank you all for being here and taking time out of your day to learn about the resources available to the Asian Pacific American community. I also want to thank Secretary Padilla and his team for helping make this happen. The leaders of the 17 nonprofit organizations here today, many of whom are doing voter education and outreach work on top of COVID-19 relief work. The members of the press who continue to tell our stories and increase access to information for our communities. And finally, the CAUSE board members and staff who made this event possible. Now I'm going to introduce you to the CAUSE board chair, Charlie Wu, co-founder and CEO of Megatoys, who will introduce the California Secretary of State.
Welcome, everybody. We are delighted to have Secretary of State Alex Padilla joining us at this very important upcoming election. As a lot of us feel, this is probably one of the more, and if not the most important election in recent memory, if not in our lifetime. Not only will we choose a president at this very critical juncture of the country, we elect Congress members, state legislators, county officials, and in many cities, for the first time, like City of Los Angeles, we combine municipal election, which elect mayors and city council members at the same time as the general election when we choose the president. So up and down, there are very important officials that we elect. And of course, there are local measures, county measures, and more importantly, the state have 12 very important propositions that would require all of us participation. And these 12, as I said, 12 propositions, that's a large number. And in addition, some of the propositions are very important, impact our lives in every way, from housing affordability to work, to business, taxation, government programs, education, professional advancement, transportations, and workplace benefits. And it is, again, it impacts every aspect of our life. And California being the largest state in the country, and we have more, probably more voters than most states, if not all the states in the United States. And this is a very challenging process. Under the Secretary's leadership, we have been making it easier for voters to participate, to Californians to participate in the election, particularly for the API community. One of the biggest advantage we have under the Secretary of State's leadership is to provide multiple in-language ballots. So for the first time, language barrier shouldn't be a major problem that make it difficult for us to participate. In addition, we provide flexibility so that we don't have to be jammed in the voting booth, in the voting place in one day. So, but of course, all that good work came before COVID-19. With the lockdowns and safety issues, and in addition to rumors and concerns about US Postal Office delivery, process, there's a lot of problems to worry about. And in this difficult juncture, I don't think we could have a better person, more prepared person than Secretary Alex Padilla. Alex has been a good friend of myself, cause, and also the API community. I knew him when he was trying to run for city council. And of course, he became council president, state legislature, now the chief election officer, overseeing the most important election in recent memory, if not in a lifetime. There's a lot of new ideas that Alex implemented, a lot of things that he needed to do to make sure everybody turn out to vote and vote safely and turn out the vote so that our voice will be heard. And we are delighted to have Alex joining us as he did the primary election. So Alex, take it over. Thank you very much for participation.
Well, thank you, Charlie. Thank you to the entire Cause family and everybody that's tuned in today for this important and timely discussion. I will try to be brief in my presentation because I know there's a number of questions that we want to get to. But Charlie, appreciate your acknowledgement of the work that we've done even prior to COVID. Because as you said a few minutes ago, every election is important. There's federal candidates, state candidates, and propositions, local officials and propositions on every single ballot. But this year is particularly important given everything going on across the country. And frankly, if we look at COVID-19, we can honestly say around the world. You know, when we say every election is important, that's also a reflection of the hard work that we put in to make sure elections are as accessible as possible, meaning that it's as easy for eligible people to participate through registration and casting their ballots, and that our elections are also secure. In the last 4 years, we've heard a lot of questions about election security, and we work on those two things every single election. This year, we also want to make sure that our elections are safe from a health perspective for voters and for election workers. So when soon after the March primary, you remember that our primary this year was a little bit earlier than normal, we started convening with legislative representatives, the governor's office, voting rights advocates, county officials on how to approach the November election in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. And it turned out that a lot of the policies that we've been advancing make even more sense during COVID. So I'm hoping you heard already, the first step is California decided to send every active registered voter a ballot in the mail for this November's election. Many people have already received it. If you haven't, it'll be coming soon. I just got mine a couple of days ago, so I'm getting ready to fill it out and send it back. So every voter should be on the lookout in your mailbox for your vote by mail ballot. When you receive it, you can fill it out at your leisure, the comfort and safety of your own home, and you'll have multiple options for how to return your ballot. Yes, the Postal Service has been in the news lately, and I'm happy to answer specific questions, but I still think it's a reliable way to return your ballot. The law in California says as long as the ballot is postmarked on or before Election Day, it can still arrive even up to 17 days after the election this November and still be counted as long as it's postmarked on or before Election Day. Another reminder, make sure you sign the envelope in the space indicated. That's important to make sure your ballot is counted. For people who prefer, they can deliver their ballot to any ballot drop box in the county on any day between now and Election Day. Or if you prefer, you can deliver in person to any in-person voting location during the days of in-person voting. And so if you're paying close attention here, you're hearing me say in-person voting because while we sent a ballot to every active registered voter, this is not an all vote by mail only election. We've worked with every county in the state to make sure there are sufficient in-person opportunities to vote for people who need it, both on and before Election Day. So we do have at least several days of in-person early voting. So the people who need to vote in person, whether it's an accessibility issue, they need language assistance, a replacement ballot, or to participate in same-day registration, they'll have multiple days to do that. So two more pieces of recommendation before we get to your question. Regardless of how you're going to vote, we're encouraging people to sign up for Where's My Ballot. We have a lot of information and tools available at vote.ca.gov. Vote.ca.gov. One of the options there now is Where's My Ballot? Any voter in the state of California can now sign up to receive automatic notifications on the status of your ballot through the delivery process. So if you signed up previously, you got the alert that your ballot was on its way to you from the county. You can still sign up today and receive alerts when you return your ballot that it's in process. Charlie, you'll even get an alert when your ballot was received and when your ballot was counted. So it's great for transparency and peace of mind knowing that your vote by mail got there and is being counted. If you need to vote in person and exercise your opportunity to vote in-person voting is going to be a little bit different this year as well. You know, just like we can't go to the grocery store the same way anymore, you know, got to bring your mask, look for the signage. We're going to implement physical distancing and all the other public health directives because of COVID-19. So expect the poll workers to be wearing PPE to keep themselves and you safe. Plenty of hand sanitizer everywhere for everybody. And yes, even the machines are being wiped down between voters. All the protocols necessary to keep the in-person voting experience as safe as possible. So that's the big overview. Vote by mail or vote in person. We're also asking people to vote early if possible. When you vote by mail, you know, don't wait till the last day. You can if you want, but if you can send your ballot in earlier, that's better for you and better for county elections officials. If you vote in person, go the first day that voting locations are open. If we all do that, then maybe we can keep the lines a little bit shorter on election day because we're expecting a very big turnout.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for all that information. I think also just even for the way I learn, I loved just hearing it out loud is really helpful. And I know that that helped me quite a bit. I'm just going to dive in because we've had some questions sent ahead of time. And so since you were talking about turnout just now, what do you expect the turnout to be? And also, how large is the team that's working on this for you? And do you have who you need? How can people get involved and volunteer or work at polls? Could you share a little bit about that?
That's great. I very much appreciate the question. The first part of your question, what turnout am I expecting? I never give a prediction or a forecast numerically anyway, other than I think it's going to be a big turnout. In the March primary, we set a record, more ballots cast in the March primary than any primary in California history. And we had record registration back in March, which continues to grow. We recently announced that more than 21 million Californians are registered to vote and eligible to vote this November. So if voter registration is any indicator, I think the excitement continues to build for participating in the November election, despite the COVID pandemic. So we'll be ready. You know, we work with counties to make sure we are ready for a big growth in vote by mail. But if we have record numbers of people showing up at the polls, we'll be ready for them there as well. To your question about, do we have what we need, especially in terms of volunteers? I think we're on track, but we can always use more poll workers. Every county in the state has had a lot of poll workers that have helped in the past, a lot of older adults, and even some people with vulnerabilities during COVID that have said they're not going to be available this November. So anybody who is interested, who's healthy, willing, and able to sign up to be a poll worker, we invite you to visit vote.ca.gov. One of the options there as you scroll down is poll worker. If you input your name and your contact information there, we'll make sure to pass that along to your county. County officials will contact you and provide you three things. Number one, the training, so we know exactly what we're doing when we're working at voting locations. Number two, PPE, as I mentioned, we want to make sure that we keep you safe. And number three, compensation. Poll workers do earn a stipend for their service. It varies a little bit by county, but it's usually around $100 a day. A lot of times there's a bonus for multilingual poll workers. So for those of you who speak more than one language, you're extra valuable for us. So vote.ca.gov, go to poll worker.
Great, thank you. And we'll make sure to share those links out too, so that anybody who's interested in learning more about that possibility will be able to find it. I think that, so the next set of questions, and there may be a few, are related to mail-in versus in-person voting. There were some questions around that. This next question actually comes from from the Epoch Times Los Angeles, one of the reporters here today. Voters have concerns about election integrity, hearing stories about mail-in ballots being discarded in other states. How are you ensuring that won't happen here? And do you recommend that one is more secure than the other, like recommend in-person versus sending it in?
Look, I very much appreciate the question. And I think to start off with, voters deserve to hear the truth. And the truth is, vote by mail. It is safe, it is secure, and it may be the best option for you to vote during the COVID-19 pandemic. I too have heard stories about the postal service, and whether it's some of the stories about mail being lost or delays, etc. Just as vote by mail is nothing new in California, neither is our close working relationship with regional and local postal service representatives. So we've been preparing for a big increase in vote by mail for a long time. It's another, I think, added value for our ballot tracking tool. Again, vote.ca.gov, click on Where's My Ballot. The more voters that sign up for that, it's not just great for the voter to be able to track your ballot through the mail, just like you track your packages when you're shopping online. But for us, it gives us real-time information on basically the flow of traffic. And so we'll be able to identify any delays or bottlenecks through the Postal Service, and then work with those locations and those facilities to make sure that we keep those ballots moving along. So it's a great accountability tool as well. And frankly, that's why we have options for how to vote. It's not all vote by mail. If you feel comfortable, that's how I'm going to vote by mail. But if you prefer to vote in person, you have those options as well.
And if you do decide to go in person, what do you recommend we do with our mail-in vote? I know that was a question that came out too.
Yeah, no, and that's a very good question, right? So, if you can, bring that ballot with you when you show up to vote in person. If you don't, that's okay. You'll still be allowed to vote in person. We do have the protocols in place to make sure that people can only vote once. So if we receive a vote by mail ballot from a voter, their record is immediately updated to show, hey, this individual already voted. If that same person tries to go vote in person, when they check in, they'll have that red flag and they won't be allowed to vote. If you do vote in person, again, your record is updated, and if a vote by mail ballot comes in afterwards with your name on it, then it won't be counted. Only one person, one vote. And I think between this question and the last question, I'll read in between the lines here about how do we know voting by mail is safe and secure. So let me just give you a couple of the safeguards that we have in place to protect the integrity of vote by mail. First, we can talk about the ballots themselves, right? They're not just basic paper, different colors maybe. Every election, each county selects specific paper types that they print their ballots on. Kind of like currency, right? We're talking about watermarks and other distinguishing features to guard against counterfeit ballots, if you will. And even the printers that print the ballots have to be certified by my office. When you return a ballot, it has to be in the official envelope. Each envelope has a unique barcode to confirm the identity of the voter returning their ballot. And of course, the signature piece that I mentioned earlier. The very first thing county officials do when vote by mail ballots get back to the county is compare the signature on the envelope with the signature on file for that person's voter registration to confirm the identity of the voter. If the signature is missing, because some people forget to sign the envelope, or the signatures do not match, it's okay, don't worry yet. The county is required to contact the voter and offer an opportunity to cure whatever signature issue there might be. If you forgot to sign it, you can submit it afterwards. If your signature has changed, then maybe there's an opportunity to update your signature. We want to make sure that every eligible voter can cast their ballot and make sure that their ballot is counted.
No, that's great to know that there will be outreach if there is a problem with signature verification. So thank you for clarifying that. Also, because I know there was a lot of work done around in language, if you get a ballot in English, can you still trade it in for a ballot that's in language, or is there a cutoff date for that?
No, there is still time. Again, the recommendation is sooner rather than later. So I think a short-term and a long-term answer here. If you go to vote.ca.gov, I mean, first of all, anybody who hasn't registered yet, you should do it as soon as possible. You can do that at vote.ca.gov. The next option available at that site is voter status. So you can verify your registration status, make sure everything is up to date and current, including your mailing address. But that's where you can also verify other preferences you have as a voter, including language preference. You can update your registration if necessary to include, your materials in your native language if you'd like, and that becomes the default for the materials that are being sent to you by the county, including your ballot. But if you haven't done that yet and you receive a ballot in English and you prefer it in another one of the languages that is offered in your county, simply contact the county and make that request. They should be able to easily accommodate a replacement ballot for you. We still have 26 days before the election. And for contact information for your county elections office, guess what? Go to vote.ca.gov and we have a directory available there. So there you go. Those are your options.
Great. And then I think related to also tracking, this question is coming from Stephanie Nitahara at Kizuna. She's asking if there are opportunities to track our ballots in language for folks to still be able to do that. And if so, what if there's a moment where we can't find our ballot or it's been disqualified? Is there a way for us to notify or processes there?
Yes, good question. And so I do believe ballot tracking is available in a couple of languages, but I don't think it's, the many languages that all materials are available for statewide. So again, go to Where's My Ballot and you'll view the language options there. Another reason why the sooner you return the ballot, the better. To be able to get that notification that it's been received and counted. If you return your ballot and you feel like too much time has gone on and you haven't gotten the confirmation that it's been received by the county, again, you can contact the county to inquire directly, or as a fail-safe option, you can exercise the in-person option knowing that only one of your ballots will be counted. One person, one vote. But the earlier you mail your ballot back, you'll get a notification once the Postal Service has possession of it and it's on its way back to the county. And again, as long as it's postmarked on or before Election Day, it can arrive up to 17 days after the election and still be counted.
Great. And then how soon are we going to know the results? I know you said 17 days after. When are the votes going to get started counting? Do you start early? Could you share that process a little bit with us?
Yeah, that's a big question because I know a lot of people are especially paying attention to the presidential contest. Look, for people who have voted in California and have followed elections and politics, we know this. On election night, we have a pretty good idea of the outcome of most contests. But for close contests and for final results, in California, it does take a few weeks for counties to finish processing ballots. But it's for good reason. They're conducting that signature verification. We're allowing for the ballots that were sent early enough, but maybe arriving a little bit later to arrive and be counted. We require every county to audit the results before we certify the results. So that takes a little bit of time. So for close contests and final numbers, it takes a couple of weeks. I think what's different about this year is you have so many other states that have expanded vote by mail significantly for the first time. States like Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania and others that are critical battleground states in the presidential contest. So if those states are too close to call on election night, it's possible that we can go to bed and not know who the president's going to be for the next 4 years, and maybe for another couple of days after that. If that happens, that's not the time to panic. It's a time to be patient. It's the process at work. Everything is very transparent. Elections officials always want to make sure we get it right. It's more important to get it right than get it fast. And so, again, I would also be wary of anybody claiming victory when there's still a lot of ballots that remain to be counted. They'll be counted soon enough, with plenty of time before the Electoral College in December, plenty of time before Congress reconvenes in January.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. It also sounds like you also have a great team working with you who can answer a lot of these questions that we have. I know there's a few more in our chat, but
Nancy, one last thing before I go. So I've mentioned our website, vote.ca.gov, a number of times. We also have a voter hotline set up at the state level. Most counties have their own local voter hotline for assistance or questions. We have one that serves all voters statewide. That number is 1-800-345-VOTE. And again, that's multiple languages are supported at our California Secretary of State voter hotline. Most of your information you need is at vote.ca.gov, but if you need to call us, you can do it there.
No, thank you for that. And, thank you again for also your commitment to providing a lot of these resources and in language. I know that's something that means a lot to a lot of our communities. We're about to go into having a few of our organizations share those other resources in language as well.
Stay safe, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. So as we move into this next portion, we know that there are other resources out there beyond Secretary of State's resources, which were great. I know for me, I learned a lot, and I'm going to check out that website and track my ballot. And I know a few of you are already doing that. I can see it in the chat, so that's great. In this next 30 minutes, we've asked some of the organizations who are on the ground doing the work to also share their efforts here. We're going to record them and send them out, but also send you links to those resources after this call. Here's a list of all of the organizations who will be here today. I'm just going to let you all know, for those of you that are speaking, we'll give you a little bit of a heads up so you know when you're next. But we're going to kick it off with Christine Chen at Asian and Pacific Islander American Vote.
Thank you, Nancy. Hi, everyone. It's so great to see so many of our friends on the West Coast. APAT Vote is a national nonpartisan organization that works with local nonprofits to mobilize Asian American Pacific Islanders in electoral and civic participation. So a number of folks that you're hearing from are also our partners. As you heard the secretary say, there is less than 26 days into elections. And we have many of our community partners in over 28 states and our student networks and ambassadors on over 40 campuses, engaging with over 700,000 households. We're touching them and engaging them through first a series of 2 mailers. There's actually 38 different versions of a state-specific translated mailer that we created. And we're providing on that mailer information on it and helping APIs make a plan to vote, understand their options for early voting, understanding what is on their ballot, as well as their voting rights. In addition, for those that need additional help, you are very fortunate that you have a number of translated materials and assistance in language in California, but unfortunately that is not necessarily the case for the rest of the country. So voters who have questions or need help voting, you could call the Asian hotline of 1-888-API-VOTE. This is bilingual assistance is available in English, Mandarin, Cantonese, Korean, Vietnamese, Tagalog, Urdu, Hindi, and Bengali. This is really especially important for those that as we get closer to the actual election day, and there are some discussions of anticipation of some voter intimidation tactics that are going to be maybe implemented. We want to make sure our community is armed to know that they could immediately get assistance, and depending on where they are at, how we can even get some attorneys and others there to immediately assist them. The other area that the secretary had talked a little bit about is the idea that we have to fight back disinformation. So API Vote is part of a broader national coalition to fight back disinformation. We want to educate everyone on how to identify disinformation and essentially inoculate it. At the same time, we need to be proactive in pushing out the correct information about the process of voting and deadlines. And we need those who are engaged with the community and active in spaces where they are sharing content to help us identify this disinformation. So later on, I will drop a link into the chat room. You can also go to apivote.org/volunteer to join this network. So that way we could provide you additional information on how to fight back on this. In addition, in the next 3 weeks, there's going to be a lot of great content that we are partnering up with a number of different organizations to push out information that you could uplift in your social media. This ranges from repurposing our presidential town hall, where we had Vice President Joe Biden participate, as well as a surrogate from the Trump campaign, where you could use that to continue to educate the community about the presidential candidates. But also, we are partnering up with Sony Music, who launched a US voter campaign, Your Voice, Your Power, Your Vote. And starting next week, we'll be pushing out with them some PSAs, highlighting some Sony artists, including some Asian artists that will hope to inspire and empower voters. In addition, we also are creating a number of different influencer videos to also help explain the process of how to make a plan to vote and what's on my ballot and knowing your voting rights. And lastly, I just want to also note another collaboration that we have is with Lyft. On election day, Lyft is offering 50% off of one ride up to $10 to any polling location or drop box using the code 2020VOTE. For the first time, this offer also includes a network of bikes and scooters in select cities. In addition, Lyft is working with API Vote, where we're working with local community partners, where we want to work with many of you to distribute ride credit directly to people in the API community who will identify as most in need of transportation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Christine. Next, we're going to have Manju Kulkarni from Asian Pacific Policy and Planning Council.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So delighted to be here with you all. I want to first off thank Cause for putting together this great event, and especially to Charlie and to Nancy, and to congratulate Nancy as well on her new position as Executive Director. Also wanted to just thank Secretary of State Padilla for sharing the information. It's so great to be in a state that actually wants its citizens to vote. And I'm sad that I have to say that, but that's 2020. And so really, I think we're so fortunate to be here. And as Charlie mentioned, we have a number of very important ballot measures to vote on today. And this is where, in our democracy, we get a chance to really weigh in on some of the most important policy issues facing our state. And so for that reason, APCON once again is issuing a voter guide. It's already out, and soon we will be making it available in several Asian American Pacific Islander languages. We have two versions of that voter guide. Which goes through one that is 30 pages, quite long, but goes into in-depth analysis, not only of the initiatives themselves, but how they impact AA and HPI communities. So that's really important. To my knowledge, not too many other voter guides do that. We also have a 2-pager that will give more succinct information, something that you could carry with you to the ballot box or use as you're filling out your mail-in ballot. Lastly, we have a quick guide that we're putting out to what those specific voting options are in Los Angeles County, with links to that information so people know exactly what they can do. We have a lot of different options here locally, and so it's important for people to understand. Obviously, as the Secretary of State mentioned, we have the mail-in ballot option, but we also have voting centers, and in fact, some of those are open already, including the registrar's office in Norwalk. And very soon we will have others available as well. So we want to share all of that with our community members and make those available as well in language. So please do go to our website, www.a3pcon.org, and you'll find right now our voter guides available, and very soon we'll have that other information as well as the translations into our AA and HPI languages. So thank you again, and thanks to everyone, every one of our panelists for their amazing work throughout all of our communities. Take care and please be safe and well.
Thank you, Manju. And I know I'm just reading everyone's names, but I have to say this is just a fun collection of just people I admire. All of you do so much great work. So thank you for taking the time. But I'm like, oh, I gotta stay on time. So I appreciate that, everybody. But next up is Marianne Fu from the Orange County Asian Pacific Islander Community Alliance.
Thanks so much, Nancy. I really appreciate the invitation, and to all of our community partners who are on this Zoom. We really appreciate the amazing work you're doing. In Orange County, we have the third largest number of Asian American and Pacific Islanders in the nation, and we have a really large percentage who are registered to vote. So right now we've been working with really partnering up with the Orange County Registrar of Voters. We have a really good registrar and a great office, and they have excellent outreach. And so their website, ocvote.com, has information in Spanish, Vietnamese, Chinese, and Korean. Again, just like what the secretary said, that you can track your ballot, you can sign up there. It's an excellent site, and numerous educational materials are available. In addition, OCAPICA is a part of a partnership called OSET, the Orange County Civic Engagement Table, which is a partnership of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, as well as labor, Latinx, and environmental justice. And we come together and do quite a bit of education, phone banking, text banking, network analysis to do education to the community in multiple languages. And so for information about OSET, you can go to occivic.org. And on OSET, you can also get linked to ocaction.com, which gives some feedback about the community's take on the propositions. And so a lot of great resources in Orange County that are in multiple languages. In addition, we've been talking to voters every day. We have a really large, robust phone banking, and we've talked to 12,000 voters already. A lot of our community members are voting early, and so they've just received their ballot, and many of them are voting and returning it this week. And so we really appreciate the interest that people are, really want to vote and make sure their vote counts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marianne. Next will be Audrey Allo from Pacifica Vote.
So aloha bulavinaka, whakaalofa atu awhade, kia ora, malo elele, talo falava, Yahweh. Thank you so much for inviting us to this cause event and to be here with the rest of you who do all of this work in your communities on a day-to-day basis. So my name is Audrey Allo. I am representing Pacifica Vote and currently the president of the Pacific Islander Health Partnership, as well as Le'ngafo, which is leadership and education through Ngangana Samoa. My three projects today that I'm sharing are: number one, Pacifica Vote, which is a nonpartisan Pacific Islander civic engagement effort put together by several community organizer colleagues with two goals in mind. Number one, to increase voter participation, and number two, to encourage Pacific Islanders to run for public office. For the 2020 elections, we've launched a Pacifica to the Polls giveaway. This promotion aims to incentivize Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders to take the very first step of checking their voter registration status at www.pacificavote.org. With just that one act, they are entered into a drawing for some amazing prizes, including one of 10 $100 gift cards, Pacifica Vote t-shirt prize packets with $50 gift cards, and more. We have also created and are sharing social media tools and events from around the community as we hear of them. In the long term, we hope that pacificavote.org can serve as a community hub for civic engagement information. If you're interested in helping us flesh out those plans and bring it to life, please let me know. We'll be happy to loop you in on those discussions. The second project is Island Block Radio, which on October the 10th at 6 p.m. with Joey Kwenga, also known as Joey Q, will provide media platform for Islandesians. So he's going to be talking about why it is important to vote, voter registration, vote in person, vote by mail, Pacifica to the Vote with Pacific Islander artists. And finally, Pacifica Vote has a discussion panel in planning stages to talk about the initiatives and the propositions. The date and time of that will be announced when details are finalized. And our time frame is probably going to be within the next 2 weeks. So mahalo for the opportunity to be of service. Mafa'aftai lava mulevangua e chautua. Fa'aftai.
Thank you, and definitely let us know when that information is ready. We'll make sure to send it to everyone who's here today and to our network as well. So thank you for sharing. Next, I'd like to invite Shika Bhatnagar from South Asian Network.
Hello, everyone. I think I know a lot of you. My name is Shika Bhatnagar. I'm the Executive Director of the South Asian Network. For those of you who are unfamiliar with SAN, we are a community-based organization based in Los Angeles County, but doing work across the greater LA area in multiple programmatic areas. So like many of you, we have been really just sort of underwater with not only COVID relief, the current crisis that we're facing, but also with census outreach. And as a small team, what we have done is really integrated our voter engagement efforts with our current outreach around both of the other areas around census and COVID relief. So we've launched our what we call our Desi Vote 2020. Desi is a colloquial term for South Asians. And as part of that effort, what we are doing is providing support to the South Asian community in the form of education and awareness, like many of you, really informing our community about how to vote, safety measures in both LA and Orange County. We will also be messaging around the importance of voting, again, in language wherever possible, and then providing in language resources. For example, Manju mentioned the AppCon voter guide, really elevating a lot of the existing resources that are out there and distributing them within our community. And then, of course, ensuring that that our community, that they know what their rights are, again, utilizing a lot of the resources that some of our national organizations have put out there and making sure that our community members have access to that information. We will also be doing a lot more ethnic media outreach, full page ads, our messages, Apni Awaz, Apni Vote, which is our voice, our vote. And we are hoping to host a discussion about South Asian voter engagement at the end of October. So it will likely be on October 29th, and of course, we'll send more details once that is finalized. And then, yeah, I think, again, we really appreciate, we wouldn't be able to do our work. We're a very small team without many of our collaborative partners who are on this call. And if there's any way that we can support you and amplify your messages, please do let us know.
Thank you so much. Next is Aki Soriano Verzosa from Filipino Workers Center.
Thank you. So magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Ako si Aki from Filipino Workers Center. PwC, we have been building out a lot of our voter outreach efforts that we launched earlier this year together with census outreach and COVID response. It's very similar to SAN as we're all responding to these times. We've put together resources that can be accessed through our website, pwcsc.org, or our Filipino Voter Empowerment Project, which is fvep.org, ffep.org. We have a voter proposition guide that is in English and also Tagalog. We have put together a series of different webinars, including how to be a social media ambassador, to leverage your own relationships to get the word out that it takes a community effort to get the vote out. Turnout. We've workshops about how to have sala talks, conversations about the issues with your own friends and families and circles, as well as videos, instructional videos about registration, how to vote, creating a vote plan, both in English and Tagalog. Next October 16th, we'll be having a town hall, which goes through the various propositions as well as our positions as PwC and our Filipino Voter Empowerment Project. And we are releasing next week, starting our PSAs about voting, especially about voting by mail, vote by mail, next week. And that will be heading out over social media networks as well as the Filipino channel. We are also doing a large amount of phone banking and text banking, which started early last month. And we're inviting people to join our volunteer phone banking and text banking opportunities on October 15th and October 22nd, where you can also help, reach out to our own communities, especially if you speak Tagalog, Ilocano, or any of the Filipino dialects, so that we can really have everyone reached out to and supported as they have their voices heard in this elections. And you can join us also over social media, over Facebook, reach out to us, as well as our main number, 213-250-4353, and also around voting, around the census, or COVID assistance as well. Thank you very much. Marami pong salamat.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I just saw a quick question around whether or not we'd have a centralized list of phone banking or text banking. I know for some of your organizations you're doing that, so we'll be happy to send that out after the call too. Next, I want to introduce Pachara Udomson from Thai Community Development Center.
Hello, everyone. I'm Pachara Udomsin from the Thai Community Development Center, or Thai CDC in Los Angeles. It's great to be here and hear about everyone's great works. I think we all can agree that community-based organizations play important roles in voter outreach because we are in the communities, we know the language, we understand the culture of our community, and I think that partnership with community-based organizations can be like tremendous assets in this effort. At Thai CDC, we've been working almost nonstop in this past few months in the response to the COVID crisis, but on the voter efforts, I'll give an example. Thai CDC was approached by LA Times about if we can recommend someone to narrate a Thai script for video guide on changes that's happening on how we all voted in LA County for this election, which is important because there's a great community concentration of Thais in LA County. So I got in touch with them at LA Times, and then I provided the Thai narration for the video. So now there's video in Thai language for our community that they can access so they can understand the changes that are happening on the voting process in LA County, so that they can equip themselves with knowledges and go out and vote with confidence in this election. So, and these videos are just not in Thai, there are videos in many languages. So thank you, LA Times, also for the wonderful video, and I hope that we can share the video so that our community's voice can be heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that brings up a great point that a lot of our organizations are the go-to for other places to get translation and to have that extra touch with our community. So thank you for also that reminder. Next is Cena Whitby from the Empowering Pacific Islander Communities.
Thanks, Nancy. So good to see you, and I'm glad we still get to work in the same space. I think, like many others, I feel relieved and assured from what Secretary Padilla was talking to us about, and I really appreciate all the work that you all are doing as well. My name is Cena Whitby. I'm the DC-based policy associate for Empowering Pacific Islander Communities, also known as EPIC. EPIC is based in Los Angeles. I'm currently in California, in LA with my family. And so I'm happy to make sure that we get, all of our folks registered to vote here as well. EPIC is a national organization that convenes NHPI leaders, NHPI meaning Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander leaders and organizations here in California and throughout the country with the focus on the continental US. We really understand the importance of this and every election season as an opportunity to empower and engage our communities that are deeply impacted by decisions made at the ballot box. So a few things that we have coming up. We have a National Voter Engagement Week of Action that's taking place next week, October 12th through the 16th. This is a collective effort that's being organized by several of our NHPI partners here in California, in Washington, and in Utah as well. We'll be sharing toolkits for each day that has a specific theme. Monday is Pacifica Indigenous Day. Tuesday is COFA Health Justice Day. Wednesday is Climate Justice Day. Thursday, we're uplifting the youth, so Pacifica Youth Voice. And Friday, we'll be talking about the state of our NHPI community during this time. We will also host panels for each day and have invited speakers from our partner organizations and community leaders to speak to the different issues that impact our community and what this election means for us. We'll be sharing all of these events on our Facebook page. We're also working on a California voter guide to push out to the NHPI community and inform them on the different propositions that are on the ballot this election. And we also just got some new civic engagement fellows. That's really exciting, and they'll be also working on these projects as well. And we'll also have translated materials in NHPI languages. So yeah, those are just some things that we have coming up, and glad to do this alongside all of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Cena. Next is California State Student Association, Jean Chan Martin.
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me today. The Cal State Student Association, or CSSA, represents the 480,000 students of the California State University system, and we serve as their official voice to the legislature and CSU Board of Trustees across our 23 campuses. Our mission is to improve the lives of students by advocating for their needs and engaging students in system-wide state and federal higher education policymaking. One of our main priorities this year is to foster inclusive civic engagements for our students. One resource that I wanted to highlight today is the ongoing Secretary of State's ballot bowl competition that is currently taking place. It is a competition amongst California colleges and universities to see which college can register the most students to vote. We are very proud that in 2018, California State University San Luis Obispo was the inaugural winner. And as of today, Cal State Fullerton is in the lead with how many students they have registered to vote. We are actively participating in National Voter Education Week that is happening this week by sharing a variety of resources with our students on social media about how they can be vote ready, including how and where to register, how to request absentee ballots if they're out of state, how to make a voting plan, and resources on where they can learn more about what's on their ballot. And we will continue to share these resources with our students throughout the entire election season. We also have a dedicated space on our website at calstatestudents.org/engage-vote, where students can find other resources and also get inspiration from other campuses across the nation on what their civic engagement plans are. CSSA is very much looking forward to a high turnout rate amongst college students this election cycle and to continue shattering the stereotype that college students don't vote. So appreciate the opportunity to share with you all, and thank you for having us.
Thank you, Jean. Next is Connie Chung Jo from Asian Americans Advancing Justice Los Angeles. And we also just want to say congratulations on your role. Thank you for being here. And thank you for making time just to share with us all of the resources that you have.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And yes, it's been 2 months on the job, but it's been a very exciting time to be in this role, working in civil rights and social justice. So I want to highlight 3 things that we're doing at Advancing Justice LA. The first is poll monitoring. We will be monitoring in LA County starting October 24th and in Orange County beginning on October 30th. We're focusing on monitoring where there are communities of high percentage of Asian American, Pacific Islander, and Native Hawaiian voters. And we want to make sure that voting centers are accessible both based on disability and language, and make sure that voters are able to vote free of intimidation and harassment. We know right now the anti-Asian sentiment is high. The presidential debates and last night's vice presidential debates did not make me feel comforted about the scapegoating of Asian Pacific Islanders. We do have our own website where we're tracking any reports of hatred called standagainsthatred.org. There are certainly other databases as well, including APCON who does so, but we are also going to be hiring a victims advocate to monitor all of these reports and try to hold the hands of victims and their families when they experience hate or discrimination. The second thing I would like to mention is our voter helpline. We just launched that 2 days ago, and we have our helpline will be available in Chinese, both Mandarin and Cantonese, Korean, Tagalog, Thai, and Vietnamese to support voters in LA and Orange counties. So if callers are having problems with the voting process, they can receive help from us in language on how to cast their ballots safely. And we'll have attorneys available to handle problems that need to be escalated. We know API voters have higher rejection rates for mail-in ballots because of fixable mistakes than other communities. So we want to avoid that from happening. And we want voters to get assistance if they have any questions or doubts. The third thing I'll mention is the phone banking we are doing with our sister affiliates of the Advancing Justice brand. There are 5 of us throughout the nation. And we have come together as a coalition to conduct national nonpartisan phone banking in 26 key congressional districts that include California, Georgia, and a couple other states. So with these, we want our callers to have meaningful conversations with API voters, and we'll be doing that in the evenings of Monday through Friday. That started on September 28th. Already, we've been able to call thousands of API voters and speak with hundreds of them to talk about why they need to get out to vote. We do know that APIs have some lower rates than other ethnic groups, and we know that politicians don't always think of us first. And we know that we can play a very important role in swing elections when APIs do come out to vote. So we're really encouraging people to go out and do that. And I'm out of time, so I'll stop there.
Thank you all for all the work you do. Thank you for joining us on this call today. For us, it's also just the beginning of I feel like we've all been in it for a little bit now. So I think we just wanted to amplify what everyone's efforts were, bring us all together, and really just start sharing it out. So we'll make sure to get all of this compiled and sent out to everybody. We just wanted to end as a group on some calls to action. Just recognize that we all came here today, not just to learn, but also to be part of what's happening, get the vote out. And it starts with us actually voting. We have 26 days left, so take action. You can register to vote, track your ballot. Also, you can work at the polls, as Secretary Padilla shared, but you also heard from quite a few organizations, events that are being hosted, phone banking, text banking that's needed, and also opportunities to share on social media. So any way that you feel like you can support, please do, please reach out. We're sharing all of the websites of the information into the chat so that you can find folks easier. The next thing too, I just wanted to make sure that we also thank our sponsors, the folks who make our vote initiative possible. These sponsors include the JT Tai and Company Foundation, Charlie Wu, Cathay Bank Foundation, and Southern California Edison. And then finally, I just want to make sure that I also thank the team here at Cause who made this happen. Justine Ventura Mejia, Talia Campos, Farah Sue, and then also our Vote Initiative volunteers and interns, Baron Kiraz, Sandy Kine, and Hannah Wong. So thank you all on my team. Thank you all for getting the vote out. We have 26 days together. And definitely, if you have information that wasn't listed here or your organization is doing more, send it to us. We'll get it out and just spread the word so that we know what in-language materials and opportunities are available for us and what resources that we have. Thank you so much for coming, and we hope that we will see you soon.